wonderful Donna Forsgren, and I'm going to talk to you all today about edutainment, or how I learned to survive the university classroom. I hope you'll enjoy. So, I learned at an early age that if you were funny enough, you could get away with practically anything. I grew up in a household with 9 sisters, yes, 9 sisters, and used comedy as a tool of survival. Because let's face it, adolescent girls can be very, very, very cruel. I quickly learned that if I was just witty enough, I could convince my older sister, Rashana, to laugh as I told her how I tore a hole in her brand new shorts that I borrowed without asking. And this saved me from a fate worse than death, unchecked retribution from a hormonal 13-year-old girl. Wonderful. I also learned that revenge could be funny. I particularly enjoyed collaborating with my older sisters to convince our youngest and truly obnoxious sister Angel that she was indeed adopted. We became so good at this game that even we began to believe our own stories. So, until this day, I still enjoy telling my sister Angel about her surgery after birth to remove the conjoined twin that she had resting upon her forehead. She was quite the trooper. Love Angel. But more than anything, however, comedy helped me early on to appreciate the sweet absurdities in life. For example, during my youth, I talked my younger sister Veronica into helping me make laxative-laced chocolate chip cookies for my entire family. I eventually gave one of them to my professor, but that's another story. After carefully researching the potency of laxatives, I decided on using the classic small pink pills. Unfortunately, we quickly found out that even after crushing these laxatives into a fine white powder, there was still the pink residue on the cover, so we felt that our family would be a little suspicious. So, fortunately, my wise and problem-solving younger sister, who was 10, realized that all we had to do was put the pink pills in our mouths to dissolve the outer coating. There are consequences of doing that, by the way. So, in just a few short hours, we made dozens of bowel-stimulating chocolate chip cookies. However, being a bit wise to my previous shenanigans, my family rightly refused to eat the cookies unless we did so as well. But what my family didn't understand is that I am willing to experience the discomforts in life in order to bring about a joke. And so, as my sister Veronica and I demonstrated the safety of the cookies, we realized how delicious that they truly were, and we quickly forgot our secret ingredient. They were so good. We used real butter, and I think that's why. They were so good. So as we consumed more than was necessary to convince our families, our bodies soon started to attack us from within, and we couldn't help but laugh. And so as I got older and began studying theater, I realized that comedy could get me out of trouble, ensure revenge, and help me appreciate the absurdities in life. But it could also be used to educate and to entertain audiences, which I eventually used in the classroom. So as I myself sat through a very boring, very, very boring theater history lecture my sophomore year as an undergrad, I discovered the following passage in Moliere's preface to Tartuffe. In it, the great 17th century French comedic playwright Moliere states, quote, "If the purpose of comedy be to chastise human weaknesses, I see no reason why any class of people should be exempt. The theater is a medium of correction. The finest passages of serious moral treatise are all too often less effective than those of a satire, and for the majority of people, there is no better form of reproof than depicting their faults to them. The most effective way of attacking vice is to expose it to public ridicule." End quote. This was a great aha moment for me. For the first time in my life, I felt that theater could serve a purpose, and comedy could be used as a tool to really change lives. I've since taken these convictions into the classroom. As an educator, I learned to survive the university classroom by relying upon comedy to edutain. In other words, I strive to educate students through entertainment. This becomes an absolutely vital tool when I discuss subject matter such as the construction of race, gender, and sexuality in theater history courses. And if you don't believe me how vital this is, imagine being an African-American woman, like myself, standing in a room full of predominantly white students discussing the horrors of enslavement. It's very awkward. I'll just say that, okay? Or discussing scientific racism or the purpose of affirmative action. It's a very interesting moment to realize that your body as a site of performance is being read, evaluated, and interpreted by students. The information that I share with students becomes filtered through their interpretation of my body. At times, this has had negative consequences in the classroom. I've encountered an array of responses from students while discussing race that range from silence to white guilt to outright hostility. And none of these are productive in a classroom setting. Using comedy to edutain students has helped me reach these unresponsive or embarrassed or simply openly confrontational students. Now, I began my career at University of Oregon last year and knew that I wanted to teach an interdisciplinary course on the representations of Blackness in theater, film, television, sports, and advertisement. Just a ton of stuff I threw in this class, but they let me. I created a course entitled Performing Blackness, From Othello to Chappelles Show, which would explore the constantly shifting terrain of Blackness within society. We began our discussion by learning the etymology of the terms, bear with me, niggard, niggardly, nigger, niggerish, niggerism, negro, black, and blackness. Okay. Although this may not sound like very interesting in itself, students were fascinated with the many, many meanings behind these words, the negative connotations, the contradictions, and even the overlaps within and among these terms. Among other things, students learned that as an adjective, black has meant, 1, destitute of light or incapable of reflecting it. 2, stained or soiled with dirt, unclean, foul. 3, dismal, gloomy, or forbidding, like darkness, cruel, hateful, and mournful. Isn't sounding too great, right? 4, expressing menace or angry discontent. 5, quite devoid of moral light or goodness, foully or outrageously wicked, indicating disgrace or dishonor. And 6, marked as hostile, unenlightened, seriously infected. And those are quotes, my friends. As a noun, black has been defined as, quote, pertaining or belonging to a race characterized by dark pigmentation, including Negroes, Negrotos, and Australian natives, as well as dark-skinned or swarthy non-European peoples. So that's a lot right there, right? Students also learned that as a noun, nigger has meant, 1, a member of any very dark-skinned race, as an East Indian, Filipino, and Egyptian. And it can also mean an impure soap. Really interesting. So by the end of this discussion, one student raised their hand and said, and I quote, "So I'm confused. What exactly is black?" For a teacher, my friends, these 7 words were like ambrosia for the gods. This allowed me to explain how blackness and race in general is not biological, but indeed socially constructed. In other words, race has meant different things to different people at different times. While this notion is really exciting for scholars, it doesn't necessarily sustain the attention of a 20-year-old. After all, what does the study of blackness compare to the latest Twilight film? It doesn't work. So in order to continue engaging students, we watched a series of clips from Chappelles Show. Anyone seen Chappelles Show? Raise your hand. Okay, some of you are familiar, so I hope you'll appreciate this. It's a sketch comedy show created by and starring Dave Chappelle. Although Chappelle's Show only aired for 3 seasons, from 2003 until 2006, it has left an impact on American popular culture. Among Dave Chappelle's most memorable sketches is the racial draft, a spoof on the NFL draft. Now, in the racial draft, various biracial and multiracial celebrities such as Tiger Woods, Halle Berry, Mariah Carey are drafted into either the black, white, Jewish, Latino, or Chinese races based on society's perceptions of their race and their cultural preferences. In case you're wondering, the black delegation drafted Tiger Woods because, as the announcer states, he has been discriminated against, gotten death threats, and dates white women. Thus rendered 100%, and I quote, 100% black, Chappelle, dressed as Woods, states, quote, "Goodbye fried rice and hello fried chicken." This draft itself, along with Chappelle's performance as various races, gestures towards the fallibility of race as a fixed and stable category. Viewing satirical sketches such as this helped me engage students in subject matter that perhaps would have otherwise alienated them. For me, laughter and learning are inextricably linked. So I would like to conclude by summarizing the 4 truths that I have learned while teaching at the University of Oregon. 1, learn by laughter. While many students may not ever be able to recall who Plautus was, I hope that they will enjoy coming to class and develop a lifelong love of learning. 2, professors can occasionally be wrong. Now that's a secret. I'm exposing it. Okay, so admitting you're wrong is difficult, but I have found that being honest with yourself and your students allows you to grow and become a better teacher. 3, classes are unpredictable. Each classroom is unique. And I've found that if a lecture works for one class, you're pretty much guaranteed that same exact lecture will not work in the next class. It's very frustrating, but I've learned to appreciate this paradox and learn to become more flexible and adapt accordingly. And 4, most student learning happens outside of the classroom. Believe it or not, it happens outside of the classroom. So I feel that it's vital to build on what students already know and what they're interested in. This not only increases student engagement, but also helps students know that you are truly interested and invested in them as individuals. So as a teacher and historian, I believe that it is my responsibility to help fill in the gaps and silences of history so that students gain a sense of the past and a purpose for the future. And I truly believe that edutainment helps me do this. Thank you all. You stayed with me.